Okay. So, like on behalf of Swinburne and Student Partnerships, we'd like to welcome you to this presentation. I think we've been involved with City of Glenara for I don't know how many years, Suzette, but it's been a long time. So yeah. It's been a very, I think, fruitful partnership, and and it's brought about some really good solutions for various clients. I guess to put it in a context, what this program is all about is trying to bring together both education and business. Business have needs, but sometimes don't have the funding to employ people to do things. Students have needs in terms of preparing themselves for graduation. So I guess bringing the two together gives us an opportunity to bring about successful outcomes for both business and students, and share that side of it. So in a sense, all these projects are designed to benefit businesses. We and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation, but we have an expectation of a solid outcome for the project in terms of business, and we have a control mechanism built in, which we'll talk about later on in this presentation, in terms of how we ascertain or make sure that our students are capable of coming up with a good result. From the students' perspective, what it does is it gives them an opportunity to engage with a real client in a professional sense, something that unfortunately you don't get by doing case studies. So this is the real world, and this is trying to bring the students to business to get experience, not only in terms of putting into practice the skills that they've learned in their course, but also to learn some of the soft skills, like engaging with clients, managing expectations, communication skills, all those sorts of things, which are really important preparation for their graduation. So, and that's why we kind of like to think of it as being a win-win situation. So we've been running this now for the past 18 years. Seems a long time, but so we've had plenty of experience, and we know some of the pitfalls. Got to say that I think, and surprisingly, during and after COVID, the demand for student projects has far exceeded the number of student groups that we have available. Two counts, the number of groups has dropped a little bit as a consequence of COVID, but also the demand from various clients for projects or student projects has gone up. So what we do is we interview each client, and we'll talk about how that happens in the process a little bit later on in the presentation. But effectively, each client is interviewed to really make sure that the project is suitable. There's no point in taking on a project that we can't deliver a result. So we ascertain the suitability of the project based on the student skills, and also to make sure that we have the right students for the right project. But as we said before, there is a strong expectation. In fact, we articulate this very strongly to the students that there's a strong expectation of a positive outcome for the client in terms of the project. Okay, Gil.
Right. So you're probably wondering, well, what can Swinburne do for you? Well, we've got a number of students who come from both the areas of business and information systems and IT. So this is kind of a list of the sort of types of things that we can look at. So, for example, marketing, just business analysis and design. If you've got a new business that just wanted to start off, getting some ideas. We do quite a lot of website development projects. We have students from finance, logistics, supply chain, HR. And then on the other side, we've got software development, database systems, business intelligence, analytics, business process management. That's kind of the areas that we tend to specialize in. So there's quite a range of things that we can help you with. Now, when we're putting together a team, what we'll typically do is we'll collect together a sort of a collection of students who have a wide variety of skills. So we might put together a marketing person with someone who's a couple of people who know how to develop websites. or there might be sort of some analysis to be done, in which case they might need some business analysis, which might mean having logistics and supply chain students or HR students, or maybe looking at business intelligence. So we kind of mix and match the students that we have available to the projects that we have available. So we can handle quite a lot of different sorts of projects. And it's because of the ability for us to kind of combine students from various disciplines. Next slide, Paul. So you might be thinking, oh, this is really great. This sounds pretty good. So why do the universities do this? What's in it for the student, for the universities itself, the university itself? Well, yeah, one of the things that's recently come through as a sort of strong theme in the universities is the idea of authentic experiences. I mean, like real experiences that you can take with you. This is for the students. So they want authentic experience for students, and working with real clients with real problems where they're expecting an outcome. That's pretty authentic. And so that's about as close as you can reasonably get, other than hiring the student and getting them to work for you. So this is the idea with this, is to provide work-ready graduates, and for the universities to kind of meet their obligations. When they advertise for students, they talk about getting students work ready and the great careers they're going to have, and this is part of that filling that commitment. The students, of course, students want real world experience that they can put that on their resume, but also feel like when they are going to enter the workforce, they actually know they have a taste for what they're actually supposed to do, and what the expectations are. If all you've ever done is assignments and case studies, and the first day you walk into a job, you're blind. You just don't know what the expectations are, and so on. So that's for the universities and the students. Then, of course, what's in it for business? What's in it for you? Okay, and as Paul kind of mentioned before, there are various things. Like you might have a need for something like, typically it's like marketing or development of a website or something like that, and you can't do it. It's just, you've got your own skills, your own experience, but it doesn't include marketing, or it doesn't include building didn't include a website, or maybe, you're not that strong on, logistics and supply chain or things like that. So it can fill gaps. For you, there's no cost to you because the students are doing it as part of their course. So they don't get paid. Basically, they have to, with the work that they're doing, they get marked on, and then they get they pass with a certain grade, and that's what the incentive for them. And the higher the grade, in a sense, the more they can promote themselves. It's being work ready, and I can talk about the projects I've worked on and what I've achieved, and what on behalf of the what I've learned, and what I've achieved in behalf of the business that I've been working with. It could be actually that you do know sort of how to do some of these sorts of things, but you're just so busy surviving from day to day, you don't have time to kind of do the research and do the investigation, maybe do the building. And so that's where we can help do that side of things. And sometimes you just want to explore new ideas. So, you think, well, gee, if I had a bunch of students who could kind of see what they're suggesting, they can do some research, they can come up with ideas. Maybe they can come up with something that I wasn't thinking of myself, and that can happen quite a lot. So there's some reasons why someone in a business might be interested in doing one of these projects with us.
Just to add to what you said, Gil, that our students are really quite innovative and creative in terms of in what they do. In fact, they surprise us. We're going to talk a little bit later on in terms of how this runs, and each group has a mentor, and sometimes we get comments from the mentors as, look, the students have come up with something that I'd never have thought of. So that creativity is something which is quite exciting to work with. So I think the things that Gil was talking about were really quite valid. In the context of people that have done projects with us before, it's very, very diverse, and I'm not going to go through every single person or organisation that's here. Some of them you might recognise because a lot of them are from the city of Glenara, surprisingly. But you can see that it ranges from international projects like Omnovus. We get a lot of international projects, and our students enjoy doing that. We've got that Latte Cups was very much a person who had a good idea in terms of how to minimise waste with things like coffee cups, and the students came up with some very creative ideas. So it's fairly diverse. I'm going to single out Handyman Howard. He came to us basically and from the city of Glenara in a situation where he really wasn't getting much work. The students came up with some ideas in terms of not just a website, but how to promote himself. And he got to the point where he was absolutely inundated with work. In fact, he had more work than he could handle. So as you can see, we've done work for the Heidelberg Magistrates Court. It's very, very, very diverse. And so, and that's the exciting thing. I think that makes it interesting for the students as well, that there's such diversity in terms of the type of clients that we get. So who can apply? We do projects for individuals, in particular startups. We get a lot of people who have got an idea, but they don't know how to actually bring it into fruition. It might be a hobby which they want to turn into a business, and so there are a whole range of skills that are needed that we can tap into to actually help in that sort of area. Gil mentioned about different disciplines before, and we really view projects as being holistic. We don't say, oh, this is an IT project, so I only have IT students, or this is a marketing project, so I only have marketing students, because there are synergies between the various disciplines. And one of the exciting things from the business point of view is that they get to work with different skill sets, and also from the student's perspective. Many students have never worked. IT students never work with a marketing student, and by the end of the project, they say, I now understand what marketing students do, or the marketing students say, no, I now understand what IT students do. So there are benefits in that respect as well. But the type of people that organisations can be micro businesses, small, medium enterprises, larger organisations. We get a number of projects on that, particularly from not-for-profits. We certainly like not-for-profits because it's giving benefit back to the community. The way it works is projects are generally selected in late July, once we know exactly how many students we've got, and we then notify applicants shortly after as to whether their project's been successful or otherwise. Sometimes the project may not be successful for a variety of reasons. One that or most common is that we don't have the skills, or the students have the skills to actually work on the project. But we do want to be upfront and say that we generally do get more projects than we have student groups available. So in that sense, there is a bit of competitiveness about it. If your project is successful, you'll be contacted by a team of students. The semester starts on I think the 31st of July, and generally a week later, the students will make contact with your group. They meet with their own team. Sometimes it's the first time they've worked together as a team. And then once they've established connection with their team members, they will contact you to organise a meeting. Okay. Gil, do you want to talk about our model?
Yep. Okay, so typically what we'll do is we'll put together for each project, we'll put together a team of say 3, 4 or 5 students, and normally they would be from multiple disciplines, with a view that the problems and solutions we're coming up with have to be looked at holistically. So, for example, we might have someone who's looking at, we talked about a website before. Now, you could put a team of IT students on a website, and they might be able to come up with a solid technical solution, but it might be woeful in terms of attracting the customers for that business, because it's pitched at the wrong group of people. It may not look right for that type of business. So this is where you feel like a marketing student could be really, really helpful. So the marketing student can look at, well, what's the customer profile that we're trying to attract? What sorts of things are attractive to that particular group of people? So the marketing student might not be able to build a website, but the students, the IT students can, and so they work together to actually develop a website. And so so for example, we've had some projects that are kind of based around sport or something. So we might include someone with a sports management background, someone who's involved in finance, someone who's involved with HR. And so we try to put together teams that can look at various aspects of the project and then come up with a holistic solution, not kind of like a, oh, well, this is the IT person's view about the website, or this is just the marketing student's view. It's supposed to be holistic. So that's what we're looking at with our project: holistic solutions rather than just looked at from one angle only. Now, each team has their own separate project, and projects are not shared. So there'll be one project, one client with one team of students, and that's it. So the team knows that everything hangs on what they do or don't do on terms of that particular project. So there is a bit of pressure on them to come up with a good solution. One of the things that we really push is the idea that teams have to work closely with their client. This isn't one of those sort of situations where the team comes along and says, for the first couple of weeks, says, oh, what's your problem? What do you want us to do? And then they disappear for the next 2 months. And then, at the last gasp, with a week or two to go, they say, oh, here's your wonderful solution. Now, the idea is that it's a gradual development and working with the client throughout the whole process. And the team is talking through what their ideas are, and the client's doing the same, and they're kind of sharing everything. And so at the end of the process, it's a client with team approach with coming up with a solution. So there should never be any surprises at the end, because whoever the client is has been working with the team to develop the solution that works best for that particular client. And that works really well, because there are so many assumptions that students can make about a business that will be wrong, and there'll be so many assumptions about what the students might be able to do as far as the client's concerned. And the only way to kind of get through that is by them working together. And so we insist on that each team has to work closely with their client throughout the whole project. That doesn't mean like 2 days a week solid. No, it just means that every week they have to make contact, maybe for half an hour, maybe an hour, or maybe some days it might be a bit longer, but that's the kind of contact that we're talking about. We expect every team to come up with a good solution. It may not be the most brilliant solution, but that's what we're always aiming for. But we're expecting something that's going to benefit the business at the end of the project. So you can say, oh, okay, look, it was worthwhile. It was worthwhile spending my time, and I've got something of value out of having done this project with this team of students from Swinburne. In the background, we conduct lectures that kind of advise or guide students about how to work with clients, how to work well within teams. What do you mean by holistic solution? All that sort of type of thing. And then we've got mentors, and we'll talk a little bit more about mentors in a minute, who are working closely with each team, because they meet with their team each week, and they also provide the soft skills. Again, how to deal with clients, how to deal with particular problems, and not just the technical stuff. And so this helps, I think, in terms of coming up with better solutions. Paul?
Yep. Okay, so just oh, sorry, client feedback, wrong slide. So a bit of feedback from clients that we've had. I don't want to read them all out because we'd be embarrassed. But basically, that Canadian project was really interesting, because the students actually researched their business and how it could be applied in an Australian setting, and came up with some really solid analysis. And in fact, we get repeat projects most years from that organisation, and also a UK company which is, I think, the next one, which is great work, exactly what I needed. In fact, they've come back this year with another 2 projects. So, but I think in general terms, what client feedback, and I'm not going to say that every feedback is outstanding, but one of the common things is that is important to us is that people are saying the students were very professional in their approach, and that professionalism is something that's often acquired or can't be taught in the classroom. Can only be acquired as part of a process, and from that perspective, professionalism, professional approach, and good outcomes, and exceeding expectations is all positive news to us. So that's gives you some idea of what our clients have said. Gil, tell us all about the process.
Okay, so what we'll be doing is we request people to submit their projects and give us information about what's their project is about, what they're thinking about it is, and what we'll do is we'll interview each person that submits a project, and we'll talk to them about the project. So kind of just sort of see how suitable it is. Sometimes we'll have a bit of a chat, and we might modify the project. We'll provide advice maybe as to what we think might work better, or might, in terms of what our students can provide, make suggestions. Because as Paul said, we've been doing this for an awfully long time. And, we often get some good feedback from clients saying, oh, that was a really good sort of talk we had, because I learned a lot more, and I've thought a lot more about now my project and what I'm trying to achieve, and what I can get done. So we interview each client and their project, and we assess it. If it's not suitable for us, we'll tell you straight away, because no point wasting your time if we can't actually find, if it's not a suitable project for us, for our students. So we've had to do that occasionally. Then we go through a process of selecting the projects that are suitable for our teams. Then we go through a process of assigning the teams themselves. And what we do in terms of assigning the teams is we look at what the requirements are for that project, and then putting together a team, looking at it again holistically, that we think it could handle that particular project. So each team is selected. There's no volunteering by the students as to which projects they do. We tell the students, this is your project, and this team that you're with, we think is the best collection of students for this particular project in order to get a successful outcome. And then after we've assigned the teams to the projects, we assign the mentors/supervisors for each team, and we'll try to pick the most appropriate supervisor. So, for example, if it's a more technical project, we'll put on a mentor who's a bit more technically oriented. We have sometimes marketing type projects, or where that's an important aspect. So we'll put someone on who's got a marketing background, and so we try to assign the mentors that are most appropriate to those types of projects. So after that, you'll be advised about that you've now got a team. They'll contact you, and the team works on the project over August, September, and October through those 3 months. And then in the first week or so of November, we basically have presentations, and the students will be providing you with various reports, and hopefully, if there are websites, have already been built, and all those sorts of things. So that's kind of already happening. So that's the kind of overall process. Paul, do you want to continue on or add something to that?
I was going to say, I think our favourite saying, Gil, is to the students when we assign teams is "Welcome to the real world." When you don't get a chance to choose who you work with, so it's a good simulation from that perspective. You're probably saying, "Oh goodness me, now how am I going to fit all this in?" And my busy schedule during the day and all that sort of stuff. The good news is that most of our projects are run online through things like Teams or Zoom or whatever is available. That doesn't preclude the option to have a face-to-face meeting, or I think we've had a few projects where it was advantageous for the students to actually come out to the site. It was a manufacturing company, and they got an idea to have a look at the actual process. So it gave more credence to the actual project and how it works. So it doesn't preclude face-to-face contact. and it doesn't preclude meeting in a cafe or whatever it might be over a cup of coffee. But a lot of the clients like to do it online because it means you can be more flexible with the hours in which you can meet with the students. And same with the students. The students have classes. This is only one subject in a sort of a course of four units for most students. And from that perspective, they also welcome the opportunity to meet, if necessary, after 5 or whatever. So it does increase flexibility. Ironically, we worried about this, I must admit, when COVID came along and we were all sort of locked up and on Zoom and all that sort of stuff. We thought, oh, this is going to be problematic. We've got to run these online. But ironically, the success rate went up. I think the notion of flexibility and better communication, the opportunity to communicate more regularly if necessary, actually enhanced the projects, and we came up with better results. And of course, you can online view documents and videos, and if they're working on websites, they can share it, just like we're sharing the presentation now. So if they're a client, if you're not familiar with online meetings, which I'd be surprised, I think most people have done that over the past few years. But if you are uncertain, the students will guide you through the process. So I wouldn't worry about that. But and they've got access to the common tools like Zoom, which is what we're using now, or even Teams. I think Swinburne has a Teams facility as well. So online is probably more flexible in the long run. Gil, I think you...
Yeah, well, so just to sort of sum up what we've been sort of saying so far is that basically one of the sort of key things that we concentrate on is the idea of holistic solutions, selecting teams so that they come up with a solution that's good for the business as a whole, and that means putting together teams of students from various skills areas. One of the things that we also push is the idea of managing projects. And that's handled by the fact that we have lots of meetings. Each team meets lots of times with the client. They meet with a mentor who guides them. And if a project starts to go a little bit off track, that's the mentor's job to get them back on track. And the same goes with the lectures and other materials that we provide. All of this is designed to kind of help them to manage their project more effectively. With the goal of achieving the project goals. That's because we want successful outcomes, and that's got to be managed. And it's kind of the team working on it, the mentors working on it, and then Paul and I with our lectures. And sometimes we also step in if there are any problems. We'll also kind of come in and sort of see what we can do to help. And the other side of it, as I mentioned, is the idea of client engagement that we really push. So we're not a kind of like, oh, tell us the problem, then we'll give you the solution that we've decided for you. It's a team based where you're part of the team, and you're coming up with a solution that you have had a lot of serious input into, and you've been able to say what you like and what you don't like, and what will work for you and what you think won't work for you, and so on. And so there's this constant engagement. So they're the three kind of things I think that kind of that we kind of try to focus on.
I think just that last point, which I think is really important, that successful outcomes come through that engagement that Gil's been talking about. And when we use the word agile, what we mean is that they won't go away and build a website for you and come back in week 12 and say, oh, here's your website. The website will evolve over that period, and you'll have an opportunity to say, no, I don't like that, or yes, I want this, or same with the marketing campaign. So the whole point is that you're involved throughout the whole process, and by the time you get to the end, you've got something that's going to work for you. So I think that's important to focus on. So how do you apply? If you ready to submit a project, that's a link which goes to a website which comes up with a form, and you just fill out the form. If you're having trouble with some of the things, you're not sure what to put, that's okay. We can talk about that during the interview. The main thing we need is who you are, what's your contact, an email address, a bit of a description about the project, and we can take it from there. So that's the first stage, to submit the project that way. Then, as Gil said earlier, we will arrange an interview, which will go for 20 to 30 minutes. That's really, really important, because as Gil said, if we don't, if it's not suitable for our students, then there's no point in promising you something that we can't deliver. So that interview is very important. But if you need more information, there's 3 of us that are involved in this. Either Gil, going to contact Gil.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that vote of confidence.
Just kidding. The 3 of us have been working on this for many, many years, and so feel free to email us. We're quite happy to respond to your query if you've got one. So that's the process. I don't know, Suzette, if you've got, maybe you can put that, make that available.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yes, I will. Thank you. And I'll just stop recording there.